Welcome to Tuesday in Holy Week. I would like to begin with the psalm which is set for today, and it is Psalm 71, first 14 verses. And for centuries, right down to the present day, the Psalms have been an important part of Jewish worship, and they have become an important part of our worship as well. And the psalm is a psalm of trust in God and also a call for God's protection. And we'll read it responsively. So I'd be glad if you would take the parts in bold. In you, Lord, I have taken refuge. In your righteousness, rescue me and deliver me. Be my rock of refuge. Give the command to save me. Deliver me, my God, from the hand of the wicked. For you have been my hope, sovereign Lord. From birth I have relied on you. I have become a sign to many. My mouth is filled with your praise. Do not cast me away when I am old. For my enemies speak against me. They say, God has forsaken him. Do not be far from me, my God. May my accusers perish in shame. As for me, I will always have hope. And I wonder how many times Jesus recited that psalm during his life. And I wonder whether he thought of it during Holy Week. It's certainly a psalm that he would have needed at the end of his life, especially the verses calling for protection from his enemies. Well, the Holy Week story is full of symbols: palm branches, perfume, merchants' tables being overturned, the bread and wine at the Last Supper, 30 pieces of silver, the rooster crowing, the crown of thorns, and finally the cross. And it strikes me that it is the ultimate irony that a carpenter should be killed by being nailed to a wooden cross. The cross, of course, has become the dominant Christian symbol. The Jews have the Star of David, Muslims have the crescent and star, and we have the cross. It took quite some time for the cross to become the symbol for Christianity because it was a symbol of shame. Early Christian symbols were the Good Shepherd and the fish. But when the Roman Emperor converted to Christianity, the cross became the symbol for Christianity. And in preparing for tonight's devotions, it occurred to me that most of Jesus' life was linked to wood. Beginning with his birth, when his cot was the wooden feeding box for the animals in the barn where he was born. And then, of course, he became a carpenter. His father was the local carpenter in Nazareth. And Jesus was the eldest son, so it is logical that he would have become a carpenter. Probably from a very early age. with Joseph as his teacher. Now, Joseph disappears from the biblical accounts, and it is thought that he died, in which case Jesus would have taken over the family business. And Mark tells us that Jesus had been a carpenter. And the word Mark uses is tekton, which actually means more than someone who works with wood. A tekton was a carpenter, craftsman or builder who worked in wood and stone. So Jesus could have been a stonemason as well as a carpenter. And by my reckoning, which may be a bit dodgy, Jesus could well have worked for almost 20 years in Joseph's shop before he set out on his ministry. Wooden boats feature often in the gospel accounts. Many of Jesus' disciples, of course, were fishermen who lived with boats, and Jesus used boats as transport to cross the Lake of Galilee several times. And Jesus occasionally mentions wood in his stories. We all remember his easy yoke. The hypocrite who can't see the log of wood in his eye, but he can see the speck of sawdust in other people's eyes. And we have his story of the foolish rich man who tore down his barns and built bigger ones to house his huge harvest. And then, of course, we come to the cross. In Jesus' time, the people who were condemned to crucifixion had to carry their own crosses a distance of up to 5 kilometres. A full cross weighed over 130 kilograms, and the crossbar weighed up to 60 kilograms. And the condemned men only carried the lighter crossbar. The upright post was already fixed in the ground. So from his birth to his death, wood was a very important part of his life. So what does that mean for us? I suggest 3 things. First, Jesus' time as a carpenter shows us his human side, and we can relate to him as a worker earning his living. And it shows us how he was able to relate to people as well. Secondly, carpenters don't just make things. They also repair things. And Jesus came to teach us how to repair our lives. And to do that, we need to love God and love our neighbours. And if we do this, we will help our neighbours to repair their lives as well. As a wise Aboriginal woman puts it, who am I in this big story of God? His body broke and our body was healed. I can't remember where I got that quote from, which is an enormous regret. But I wrote it down and was very taken with it. Who am I in this big story of God? His body broke and our body was healed. Now, whenever we look at the cross, we are reminded, whenever we look at the cross, we are reminded of Jesus' remarkable life and teachings and his call to follow him. Now, when preparing for tonight's devotions, I came across the legend of the 3 trees, which is new to me, but may be well known to the rest of you. I know Di knows it. Does anyone else know the legend of the 3 trees? No, it was completely new, but when I Googled it, it's kind of everywhere. It goes like this. Once upon a mountaintop, 3 little trees stood and dreamed of what they wanted to become when they grew up. The first tree looked up at the stars twinkling like diamonds above him and said, "Someday I hope to be a treasure chest. People could fill me with gold, silver and precious gems. They could decorate me with intricate carvings and everyone would see its beauty. I will be the most beautiful treasure chest in the world. We've got a couple of treasure chests at home, actually, but they were a little bit big, and I actually treasure this chest. And you will recognise, of course, this is some of Bill Norkey's beautiful work. So we've got the treasure chest in miniature. The second tree looked out at the small stream trickling by on the way to the ocean and said, "Someday I will be a mighty ship. I will take kings and queens across the seas and sail to unknown places. Everyone will feel safe because of the strength of my hull. I will be the strongest ship in the world." Finally, the third tree looked down into the valley below, where busy men and busy women worked in a busy town, and said, "I want to grow to be the tallest and straightest tree in the forest. People will see me on top of a hill and raise their eyes to heaven and think of God. I will be the tallest tree in the world." There you are, it wasn't thrown out. Well, years passed, the rains came, the sun shone, and the little trees grew tall. And one day, 3 woodcutters climbed the mountain. The first woodcutter looked at the first tree and said, "This looks like a strong tree. I can sell the wood to a carpenter." And after being cut down, the tree was happy because he knew that the carpenter would make him into a treasure chest. The second woodcutter looked at the second tree and said, "This looks like a strong tree. I can sell it to the shipyard." And the second tree was happy because he knew he was on his way to becoming a mighty ship. And when the woodsman came upon the third tree, the tree was frightened because he knew that if they cut him down, his dreams would not come true. Oh, and the woodsman said, "I don't need anything special from this tree, so I'll just take it back with me." And when the first tree arrived at the carpenters, they made it into a feed box for animals. It was then placed in a barn and filled with hay. They cut the second tree and made a small fishing boat. And they cut the third tree into large beams and left them alone in a timber yard. Well, the years went by and the 3 trees nearly forgot their dreams. Then, one day, a man and woman came to the barn. She gave birth, and they placed the baby in the feed box made from the first tree. And as the starlight shone on the smooth and sturdy wood, the tree could feel the importance of this event. And now the tree knew that it was holding the greatest treasure of all time. And years later, a group of men got into the fishing boat made from the second tree. One man went to sleep. A great storm arose and the tree didn't think it was strong enough to keep the men safe. The men woke the sleeping man. He stood and said, "Be calm." And the storm stopped as quickly as it had begun. And suddenly the tree knew that he was carrying the King of heaven and earth. I need to thank Playgroup for this one. And finally, someone came and got the third tree. It was carried through the streets as the people mocked the man who was carrying it. Later, they nailed the man to the tree and raised him up to die at the top of a hill. And on the third day, the tree knew that God's love had changed everything. God's love had made the first tree beautiful. It had made the second tree strong, and every time people thought of the third tree made into a cross, they would always think of God, and that was better than being the tallest tree in the world. And Kay said to me, "What's the moral of the story?" I wasn't going to give you one. but there is a moral. The moral includes humility and service. The trees are transformed from their selfish ambitions to serving a greater purpose in a humble way, demonstrating that true fulfilment is found in following God's will, not our own. You will have noticed that the story begins with 3 trees on a hill, and the Good Friday story finishes with 3 crosses on a hill. In Currumborough and South Gippsland, each Easter, for their Easter decorations, they erect on a small hill at the entrance to the town 3 crosses. When you drive in, you can't help seeing them. Simple but very effective. I'd like to conclude our worship tonight with a prayer about Jesus the carpenter. It's on the bottom of the yellow sheet. You may not have seen this. It hangs on the wall just outside the chapel, and it's the prayer in embroidery. And it was put together by husband and wife, June and John Nunn, former members of this congregation. They died some time ago. John was a carpenter, became a carpentry teacher in technical schools, and June was a brilliant embroiderer and extremely well known in the embroidery world. Like all good things, we don't know who wrote the prayer. But I would invite you to pray with me. So let us pray. O Christ, the Master Carpenter, who at the last through wood and nails purchased our whole salvation, wield well your tools in the workshop of your world, so that we who come rough-hewn to your workbench may be fashioned to a truer beauty by your hand. We ask it for your own name's sake. Amen. Thank you all.